Alrighty, it's got the wood heater cranking here. I found a whole bunch of roots that I'd trimmed off before I'd done a bit of chainsawing on some of these logs hidden in behind another bunch of smaller logs that weren't really terribly big ones. Had a stack of small ones and offcuts and that, and yeah, lo and behold, in the back of those there's a whole bunch of tree roots, and I've been burning those the last couple of days. Just little ones I trimmed off with the reciprocating saw. Little Kitty's over here. She come in when she realised the wood heater's going. Yeah, well, my pretty. Yes. Yes. Anyway, I want to talk a bit about some of the things I've noticed. Just trends and stuff. Some on YouTube, some not on YouTube, some in real life, another one in a movie that was a, reality-based movie. Just things I've noticed with people being off-grid or even out in the country. There's certain patterns that tend to appear in people's behaviour and stuff like that, and just sort of common factors, and in some ways it makes you understand certain things about people and certain things about economics as well. For the longest time I've been seeing people move out to the area I'm in, and they all come out here with full intentions. We're here to stay and we're this and we're that and boom, 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 boom. And so many times, guaranteed, within the next 2 years, they're gone again. Sort of strange. Also disappointing to see another guy who was a well-known vet or a doctor or some shit. He's here for 20-something years and he's decided to move back into the city. And it's just like, what? He's actually closer to the city than I am, but he had people, it's a bit wild out there in the country. When he moved from the city out of the country, here for 24 years, and you go, he's part of the community, now he's fucking off back to the city again. You're thinking, what? That's hard to believe, but you only get about 1 in 15 families who actually stay here for the longer term, who are going to be here for 10 years or more. And, well, let's face it, if they make it over the 2-year point, there's a high chance they'll make it over the 5-year point. If they make it over the 5-year point and get to the 10-year point, then you're pretty much assured they're going to stay here, probably forever. But there's so many of these ones who, we're coming in and we're moving in here for good and this and that. And, I'm not joking. Like, people move out here, full intentions to stay here, or at least they're saying that. And they're gone in 6 months. I mean, it happens so many times. And if it is not 6 months, it'll be within 2 years. And it's only the 1 in 15 families that actually stay beyond that point. It might even be more. It might be 1 in 20 that stay beyond that 2-year point. And they miss, fundamentally, looking at their situation from a third-party perspective, and they miss, they sit there and they calculate the frickin' mortgage. And they work it all out, all the rent or whatever. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How much does this cost? How much? And the dumb bastards, they never cost in the fuel. Now, that's the one thing out here. And this is the one essential thing that kills off their life out here, is that they don't have a life really based here. Their life is based in the city, i.e. they work in the city, the kids go to school in the city, the kids do blah blah class after school in the city, the kids go to Sports on Saturday in the city. The kids, everything, city, 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 city. There's not one aspect of their life that's out here, aside from the fact they actually sleep out here in a house. And so-called live out here. But the reality is, they play out most of their life in the city. Now, one thing you realise when you're out here, everyone's like, oh, you know, it'll all be right. And they never calculate the cost of fuel. And they fucking kill themselves on fuel costs. And ultimately, they end up going back to the city. Either because they're killing themselves on fuel costs, or they realise the solid truth that they should have realised before they left, and that is their entire life is based in the city. Now, I know you have to move out to a place before you can base your life out in that place, but, you know, it's sort of like they never let go of any of their life in the city. And because they never let go of any of that life in the city, they're drawn back to it. And there's another thing too, a lot of us run on propane out here. And as much as all these motoring enthusiasts like to shit can propane, a few years ago, like about 5 years ago, when they were still manufacturing cars full swing here, the production line that made the most commonly bought Ford, or, well, Ford family car, I think it was the second most commonly bought after the other SUV type one, literally 40% of all the vehicles coming off that production line were built to be on LPG, built to run on propane, coming off the factory line. And you got motor enthusiasts saying, oh, the future of it's in doubt. But the turbocharged version of blah, 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 this sports one is here to stay. Oh, is it? Sure, rightio. Okay, yeah. Turbocharged version lasted a few years. Oh, but the propane one's in doubt. Nah, bullshit. It was 40% that were factory built to run on propane in the damn factory on the production line. And then there's a whole stack afterwards that are converted, because the common knowledge is, unless you're buying brand new, it's actually a good move to... A lot of people who convert to propane run fairly big kilometres. So if you want a low kilometres vehicle, a low mileage vehicle, you actually get one that's not on propane, because the propane ones are almost certainly a high mileage one. And then, then once you've got it, then you convert it over. And that's actually the best way to go for second-hand buyers. Anyways, none of these people ever convert to propane. And of course, their fuel costs blow right out through the roof. If in case their whole life being in the city wasn't enough to wipe out things anyway. Now, onto YouTube, there's another one I've noticed, and I'm not saying this is always the case in general, because it's not, but there seems to be a tendency amongst sort of some of the off-grid people that, well, you know, jobs might be a bit of an issue. Like, some of these people who are full-time off-grid and whatnot, you know, there's a few of them there who, to be able to be off-grid, they don't end up tending to do a lot of full-time work. And there was one who was fantastically, magically off-grid, blah, blah, and it was everyone's nice little dream and delight, I remember it. Well, you know, certain person, I helped boost him up, and, it only took him a few weeks, and they unsubscribed from me and everything. Even after I helped boost him up, helped get him running. But regardless of that, in many ways they got running on their own, because it was such a nice story, and so, glorious, so idealistic. And it was, it looked great. Then reality struck a couple months later, and it was like, well, I'm starting to run short of money, and I'm going to need a job. So I'm still going to be off-grid, but I've now got an apartment in the city, and I've got a job in the city, and I'll be back here on weekends. Yeah, that kills a lot of people's nice fantasy dreams about you living off-grid full-time. Shit. You know, what are these things? You know, it seems to be that there's people who are off-grid, I'm not saying always, but a lot of times, often enough, they won't work, or their spouse will have a part-time job, or something like that. Not always, you know, but these things tend to happen, that it's almost like if you're going to be off-grid, you can, you know, you got to have other means of income, if you know what I'm saying. You know, and I don't mean growing weed or anything like that, but, you know, it's going to be like a government pension or AdSense money or, oh, hell, I hate to say it, some e-bag. And, you know, and others, it's all great, and then it's like, oh, well, actually, this is only a part-time thing, and it's basically they're living a lie. They're not full-time off-grid. No, I must admit that in the winter here, I look after another house, but I still sleep in this bed every night, you know, and, or pretty much, and, you know, it's a little bit hard to resist a TV and a microwave, so, you know, I'm supposed to be looking after this place. You know, plus their hot water system works a darn sight better than mine, and you know. So I go over there during the winter, but it's not very far from me. It's only literally a few minutes up the road, and you know, I sort of always end up back here in this bed almost every time. You know, during the winter and during all the other 9 months of the year, I'm here. But it's just a little bit convenient to go over there and do things. And I am supposed to be looking after the place, so that's what I do. You know, but ultimately I wake up here every morning, leave work from here every morning, you know, and still got to, you know, muck around with firewood and all that type of thing, just to spend a few hours a night over at the other joint during the winter. But, you know, ultimately, I'm living here full-time, you know, and, you know, the thing is, with being on propane and all that, you know, I've got to work in the city as well. The stupid thing about it is a handful of jobs out here are actually people from the city, usually white trash, coming out here to work out here versus the locals working here. There's a couple of housewives that work in some of these joints, but, you know, it's all, a lot of it's all frickin' chicken-related industries and shit like that, you know. And I mean, you know, one point here I worked at the piggery, which is not terribly far from me, you know. And, but yeah, this is the thing, a lot of these joints are sort of strange, you know. You get people from the city coming out to work out here, and yet we go in there, into the city, and people say, oh, isn't there any work out in the country? Well, there is, but it's bloody city people working in these places, while the country people are going into the city to work. You couldn't bloody make it up. But anyway, that's the way it is. You know, a lot of the wages are fucking piss poor, and, you know, it's only part-time, but shit like this. Almost guaranteed it'll be part-time, you know. And, you know, ultimately I pour a lot of propane into the vehicle that I drive, and I end up working in the capital. But at least, you know, I've got a job that's sort of, you know, it's full-time, and in fact now I've been doing a fair bit of overtime. You know, and will be for the next couple of weeks. I've been, you know, working on Saturday, and, you know, that's going to continue on for a while. But, Yeah, that's just the way it goes. But it's good to sort of, be able to go and work in the city where you can make, reasonable money and sort of come back and still live off grid full time without having to move into the city and live in the city, And, I think in many ways I'd rather be out here in the quietness. Because the city, there's all the hustle and bustle and the noise and all the bullshit, and there's always someone doing something, driving somewhere, going somewhere. It's just, how do you ever relax with that shit, But anyway, there's another one I've noticed too, that if you've ever seen a movie called Dark Days, I recommend you get it. It's one of the best bloody movies ever made, I reckon, except maybe for Restrepo. Restrepo is an outpost in Afghanistan. Fracking brilliant movie, that one. Absolutely brilliant. Based on reality, based on footage that was taken right there. And Dark Days, that's the same thing, based directly on everything that happened in New York City, in unused train tunnels where people have little shacks and live who would otherwise be homeless. And it's funny, eventually they got all these people out of there and got them under some, I don't know, section whatever. They got them into frickin' into some housing thing and, chucked them all in apartments, basically. Apartments for the homeless, blah, blah, blah. And it's so funny to watch these people go from relative freedom, and they didn't have to work at all. They were dumpster diving for food and getting a lot of food. They get a lot of stuff. They're getting so much shit that some of these people will resell it. Well, a lot of these people would actually resell some of the crap they got, out of bins. They go to markets, set up a friggin' little card table and start reselling all this, some of the shit they'd found. There's another one that, they would they'd find all these CDs and they'd go to this particular place to buy second-hand CDs, and then go down there and, sell them off and unbelievable some of the things they'd, get up to, but they had freedom, and they mightn't have had much money, but they definitely had freedom. And when push come to shove, all in apartments, and you say, oh, well, it's good they got housing, yeah, but this is the thing, coming with it. The costs. Utility bills, this thing, that thing. I think they might have been renting again. I don't think the housing was free. I think they may well have been paying money for it, and it just, everything all, boom, 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 all dropped back in. It was like they've gone from freedom. I mean, you can see it how you want to see it. Some people, oh, they're homeless, but now they're not homeless. Well, it's not actually true, because all of them had electricity, running water, and a shack with a, door that they could lock on it. They had friggin', one of them was double story, one was blooming, like a, they had double beds in there, they had fucking fridges, they had heaters, they had fans, they had electric cooker, they had everything electric you could dream of. They probably frickin' had it, except for actual full-blown air conditioning, which I really question whether you'd need, being partially submerged underground in New York, and this is the thing. Like, it was a bloody dream for some people. the real homeless to be able to live as good as these guys were living, you know, and bang, slotted back into the frickin' rat race again. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a job. You know, I believe you should have a job, you know, and you should provide for yourself, but it's almost like they were just happy to be slotted back into paying full price for everything and being back on the bloody hamster wheel, running like hell, you know, paying everything again. And you should have seen them there, you know, oh, well, I've got a job at this one and that one again, you know, boom, boom, you know, working for this place, doing this thing at this money, and then they're sitting there, and you could just see it come back in with some of them. One of them had one of those couch sets where it was like a multi thing that you can all, you know, join the different bits together, where you got the little corner couches and then you got all the separate little segmented ones that you're all, you know, oh, well, I'm going to have it like this, like that. Now I only goes this far. Now I'm going to get extra ones that continue and go all the way around. Then I'm going to have this sound system, and I'm going to have that, and then a blah, 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 and I'm going to be a big TV there, and a rah, 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 rah. And you think, oh, shit, dude, they're back to that consumeristic thing of looking at everything, you know, their eyes Googling at all this Chinese-made crap that they don't need, they didn't have before, and bang, the consumerism is back in their veins like frickin' heroin running through their veins, you know. And you think, oh, shit, you come from freedom where you didn't have much responsibility, you didn't have much costs, and you had a lot of everything that everybody already had, you know, and then, well, now you're paying for everything like everyone else is, because you're back in the rat race, you're back in the rental market, you're back in the, and then you just see all the consumeristic things of, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to do this, and you can say, yeah, Link, they're building a future. What's wrong with that? Well, you know, their life wasn't actually, they weren't exactly lacking when they were living in shacks that they weren't paying any money for, with free electricity, free water, heaters, fans, refrigerators, electric cooking, boom, 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 go down the line, you know, friggin' hell. If it was this day and age, they'd also have a tablet and they'd be using free Wi-Fi, you know, and you just sort of sit there going, oh, blimey, like, you know, they had pretty much everything anyway, you know, and now they've got everything plus a little bit more, but they're back on the hamster wheel, running like hell, to pay for everything that they had for free, and now they get one or two extra things they can buy, and this and that, but you could just see their eyes popping out of their head, ranting on about all the things they were going to buy to put in their new apartment, blah, blah, blah. You just think, oh, shit, dude, you know, you're in freedom and you didn't realise that you had freedom with, just like me, you know, 80 to 90% of what everybody else had, except they had even more because they had free electricity at, you know, at quite a, you know, as much as not just a couple little solar panels, but these people could run quite a significant amount of shit. You know, they're already running heaters and cooking equipment and everything like that, you know. And basically, they were living higher than I was. And when they moved out and into these apartments, the apartment only gave them another 10% more shit than they had previously. But now they're back to the same cost of living as everybody else. You know, that's what sort of grates me gears, you know. You just think, fucking hell. You had it almost all. You had 90% of it all. Maybe even more than 90% of it all. And now, you know, what's the only difference now is you got a place where someone puts the bloody letters in your letterbox. That was the only damn thing you've really gained, you know. But anyway, it's just this different, you know, just looking at how people live in freedom, off-grid freedom, you know, and don't, and sort of people being on the hamster wheel, leaving the hamster wheel to then jump back on it and get back in the rat race again, you know, and sometimes you wonder what for, you know, you sort of, you may say, oh, well, look, they're making progress. Yeah, but are they? They had 90% of the shit they got now, and they didn't pay anything, fucking anything, for 90% of what they got now. And now they got 100%, but they're paying several $100s a week. You know, they're paying fucking $500 a week, you know, to have 100% of everything versus paying 0 for 90% of what they had. Or, you know, 90% of what they now got, which was how they used to live, you know, and they paid fucking nothing for it. And you're like, God damn it. You know, I believe in work, like no bones about it, you know. All this stuff, you know, people that move off grid and then, oh, well, I need a government pension, or I need a this, or I got an e-bag, or, well, it was all great while I had money in the bank and plenty of cash behind me, but now I'm running out of cash, so my off-grid life's going to end, and, or my, you know, van-dwelling life's going to end, or whatever. It's like, oh, fuck, you know. You want to make it a long-term thing, trust me. It's a good idea. Because your cost of living in a van or, you know, in an off-grid house as I am in, well, small cottage, you know, it costs a fuck all, you know? And this is the beauty, is that you can still work and make the same money, but your costs are, you know, not including the high standard of eating that I have, your costs are 10% of what they, you know, used to be. But anyway,